Legal stand weekend, of course, having to do with Donald Trump's wish to send federal troops into states and cities led by elected Democrats. That resulted in, as we've been covering, the late night Sunday ruling by a Trump-appointed judge, which temporarily blocks the Trump administration from sending any National Guard units into Oregon at all. Yesterday's order expanded on the judge's Saturday ruling that prevented Trump from sending Oregon's National Guard into Portland. The administration tried to sidestep that by sending the California and Texas National Guard in, but the judge took the administration to task and accused the Trump administration of, quote, direct contravention of her Saturday order. Trump has asked an appeals court to lift her order by today because he claims the troops are needed in Portland to quell violence. But here's the reality, the facts on the ground, if you will, in Portland, Oregon.
This is not war-torn. This is Portland.
We don't need help. We got it under control. Take a look.
The thing that's harming us is the escalation tactics that Trump's trying to use to create a narrative that, you know, Portland is this boogeyman that requires further militarization, and we just don't.
I'm hopeful that the courts, and I'm hopeful that ultimately common sense prevails and, you know, we continue to be peaceful and not allow these things to happen in our cities and states.
During our coverage, Oregon's Attorney General Dan Rayfield, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Take me inside what is happening right now legally in your efforts to stop Trump from sending in the National Guard.
Well, this all starts when you have a president that bases his impressions of the world on social media gossip and trolling. And so last Sunday, we got an order that said, hey, they're going to bring in or federalize the Oregon National Guard. We were in court within 6 hours, filed a lawsuit, and then sought what we call a temporary restraining order, which effectively would just pause the president's actions. On Saturday, we were successful at 4:30 p.m. We get this order that says, hey, President, you got to stop. Within hours, we hear that the president is now trying to bring the National Guard from California into Oregon. We filed another temporary restraining order. Several hours later, the next day, we hear that he's trying to bring the National Guard from Texas into Oregon. And ultimately, yesterday, you had an exasperated judge who effectively said, hey, you can't do this. There's no justification for using the U.S. military in Oregon in the very stringent standards that Congress outlined and gave power to the president. So that's kind of where we are. Federal government has appealed this, and we're waiting to hear back to see whether the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is even going to listen.
Let me show you what Trump said is happening in Portland, and I'll give you a chance to fact check him on the other side.
Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground. The governor, the mayor, the politicians are petrified for their lives.
So these are the facts that we have. I just want to give some police data. 2 arrests were made at protests over the weekend and 36 arrests at protests in 4 months. What do you, I think a judge theorized that maybe he was looking at some old newsreels. I mean, what is he talking about and what is really happening?
Who knows what he's talking about most of the time, right? I can say I'm a Michelin star chef, but it doesn't make it the case. He says things, and that's why the courts are here, because this is a president that is known for making his living on, saying inflammatory things on social media, impromptu, some things that feel very unhinged from reality. But that's why our court systems are so darn important, right? We're able to come in, present real facts, as you've noted, and a judge that was appointed by President Trump sat there and said, hey, the facts that you're presenting in court just aren't true, Mr. President. In fact, it's always a bad sign. And I think it's actually a little bit embarrassing that the lawyers for the federal government came in and were actually citing the president's quotes on Truth Social. That's how far they've gone down the hill in the federal government in the court system. So that's why we won the case as we're moving forward. Or I should say we won the motion, and we intend, if those facts stay the same, we expect that result to continue.
Let me read you from the judge's ruling Saturday. It's about resisting government overreach. Quote, this country has a long-standing and foundational tradition of resistance to government overreach, especially in the form of military intrusion into civil affairs. This historical tradition boils down to a simple proposition. This is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law. Defendants have made a range of arguments that, if accepted, risk blurring the line between civil and military federal power to the detriment of the nation. How would you describe to people outside of your state the stakes of this standoff?
I think we all have to take a deep breath and then look at all of the things that are going on in our country right now. The first thing that you should grapple with is you have a president who leads through fear, right? His own party can't even stand up to him because they're so fearful of what he's going to do to them in a primary. You have a president that is normalizing the use of the military in our cities. That's un-American. And he's talking about doing it where he's going to be a police force in our communities with the United States military. That's wild. You haven't talking about rigging our elections like they're doing in Texas so that they can maintain power in Congress. And then a couple weeks ago, he said and pressured the free press so much that even Senator Ted Cruz was saying, hey, that's too much for me. These are all hallmarks of a very effective democracy. These are the things that other countries strive to obtain. And he is attacking the core of these things. And that is where I think we all have to be concerned. And that's where, just as Americans, we have to stop, we have to push back, draw a line in the sand. And then while he's doing all that, he's yanking health care away from people. He's passing regressive taxes, including tariffs, and also stripping people of food assistance. It's a very bizarre world that this president wants to live in. And I think we have to look at the totality of what he wants America to be and say no.
Attorney General Dan Rayfield, thank you very much for joining us. I hope we can call on you often as this battle goes on. Thank you for your time today.